Well guys, ain't no way of sugarcoating it. Things just ain't looking good here in West Tennessee. In fact, they not looking good around a lot of the country. 3 weeks of continuous rain for us turned what was an exciting spring, a good spring, and a pretty ugly spring. And now because of it, we're faced with 2 decisions. A bad decision or a worse decision. Problem is, I don't know which one's which. Yep, well, one big consequence of all the rain, we got to load this thing back up with 34 bags of cottonseed. Yep, that's right. We got about 210 acres of cotton we need to replant. So anyway, I'll talk more about that once we get to the field. Meantime, me and Carter got a whole lot of heavy lifting to do. All right, Andy's already out here spraying burn down to kill the weeds and cods out here. He's somewhere over there. And this paraquat works so fast, I'm gonna stop here and show you exactly why we're replanting before all the cotton's dead. Now, starting pretty much from the day that the camera crew was out here filming, the vast majority of that we planted that day and afterwards till we got done is going to have to be replanted. There's going to be some places we can keep, but the vast majority is going to have to be replanted. We just had constant rain after we got done planting. I'll talk more about that once we get in the tractor, but I'm going to show you what we're looking at out here. Yeah, some places out here came up to an acceptable stand, like this spot right here. I mean, that's a decent stand, you know, compared to what it went through. But then we go over here, you know, a couple rows beside it, and look, I mean, there's nothing. There's one plant. I mean, we're going this way. There's another plant. There's a poor looking plant, and then there's another plant. You know, there's 2. And then the row beside it, nothing. And then we get to one plant. And that's the way all of it is. You'll have 2 or 3 good looking rows, and then you'll have 2 or 3 almost barren rows beside it. And you know, there's no scenario where it makes sense to keep it. Overall, we've got an average population around 18 to 20,000 plants per acre, which if they were evenly spaced all the way across the field with no major gaps, I'd keep that. Problem is, it's not uniform. You know, we got some spots with probably, you know, 33,000 population, and a couple rows over, you know, we might have 5 to 10,000 plants per acre. And I've kept poor stands in the past. I don't think I've ever kept this poor of a stand. We've had areas of fields that we've kept that poor of a stand, and let me tell you, it is just ugly all year long. I kick myself all year long, and it can still make cotton. However, problem is the cotton picker can't get all that cotton because you got one single plant with big long branches drooping down, and the cotton picker just can't get all those branches into the header. So even though you made the cotton, you can't harvest the cotton. So right now we're way outside my comfort zone on planting cotton, but I kind of have to plant cotton. Like I said, I'll explain more about that in the cab. But anyway, time's a wasting. Let's get this planter dropping some seed in the ground. Well, I know I promised y'all a crop tour video, but this is not the type of crop tour video I had in mind. But y'all know that real dry, nice spring I was bragging about. Got everything planted. You know, got started planting my cotton earliest I've ever done. Well, let me tell you what, we have paid for it dearly the last 3 weeks. So Mother Nature has tried to make up for lost time with the rainfall. You know, if you remember the last half of cotton planting, you know, we got rained out a couple times, and you know, we get a half day here. You know, we finished up with rain coming in, and for the last 3 weeks, you know, today is I think May 29th. For roughly the last 3 weeks, there's been one day out of that entire 3 weeks that I felt the ground was decent enough dry to be able to plant. There's been about 3 days total where the ground was dry enough to where you could get the sprayer in and not do a terrible job. And that one day that we could have planted was a week ago, and by that time I knew that I needed to replant. But the forecast for the last half of last week and this last weekend was so terrible. I mean, I would have just been spinning my wheels replanting, because what I would have replanted, I probably would have ended up with a worse stand than what I've got now. So Cotton Scout and I talked about it and just decided the best thing was wait for that huge storm system to come through and then focus on replanting as soon as it dried up, which is what we're doing. You know, total over about a 4 or 5 day period, I think we got about 3.5 inches of rain. So yeah, if we had planted last week, I would have been having to replant a third time. Kelly, did you happen to find any planter lids on your way over here?
You mean this one?
I'm missing 2.
Only found one.
Carter didn't put the front lids back on tight, and I'm missing 2 of them.
Well, then I guess better call him and have him come look for him.
I've been trying to call him. He's not answering his phone. So anyway, this is going to be a quick and dirty video. Not going to be any fancy GoPro shots or drone shots, because it's, like I said, it's May 29th.
Well, this one was clear in the road, so that's how I saw it.
Well, like I said, it's May 29th, and we're way outside my comfort zone on planting cotton right now. I've planted this late. I've actually planted a little later, but very, very, very rarely does it turn out good. It is a fight all year long to get the cotton to produce the most that it can and get it matured out and then harvest it, and not only that, then to get my wheat planted, you know, late in the fall. You know, when I opened up my video talking about bad decisions and worse decisions, you know, that's the decision we're faced with. There is no good potential outcome for this land right now. I can go back with cotton, planted late. I definitely lost the top end yield, and all the stars have to line almost perfectly to make a good crop out of this. Or I could just say scratch it, I'm not going to plant cotton, and go back to soybeans. You know, I can make 50, 55 bushel soybeans, but then my risk is not going to be spread around as much. You know, we're going to be real heavy in soybeans. But not only that, the herbicides that we applied when we planted, one of them was Break. It's a pre-emergence herbicide, and you know, it's not labeled for beans. I think there's a 30-day replant interval from the time you apply it till the time that you can plant soybeans. And well, that would put us at about right about the middle of wheat cutting and double crop soybean planting, in order to follow the label and plant soybeans behind this. And delaying the planting of those even further could potentially drop the yield down to where I'd basically be looking at double crop soybean yields. Not to mention, we wouldn't have the time to come in and replant 210 acres of soybeans, you know, while we're cutting wheat and planting our double crop beans. So we're rolling the dice. You know, last year I replanted about 80% of my cotton, and it turned out phenomenal. And we replanted all that cotton, I think, between about May 21st to May 26th. I think it's May 29th now. You think 3 days doesn't make that big of a difference, but we got really, really lucky last year in that you know, we had an extended growing season there in September and October that really helped mature that cotton out. There's no guarantee, you know, if we have a cool August, you know, a cool September, cool October, you know, we're losing heat units that we desperately need to get this cotton to produce and mature out. And how cotton grows, you know, if you're familiar with how corn grows, you know, corn grows determined on heat units also called GDUs. Well, on cotton we use what we call DD60s. And how you figure DD60 is you take the average temperature for the day minus 60, because cotton doesn't really grow, do anything below 60 degrees. But anyway, take the average temperature minus 60, and that's how many DD60s you picked up for the day. So if you have a high of 90 degrees and a low of 70 degrees for the day, your average temperature is 80 degrees. 80 minus 60 is 20. You pick up 20 DD60s in a day. It takes approximately 2,200 DD60s to mature cotton out, and that's the very bare minimum. You know, full season cotton, you know, 24 to 2,500 DD60s. So you think if you're picking up, you know, 20 DD60s a day, you know, what is that, 110 days minimum that you need of an average of 80 degrees. So that's almost 4 months right there. So it's almost 1st of June, so June, July, August, September. Well, you say, well, I mean, you should be all right. That won't be any problem. You know, you typically don't defoliate cotton until the middle of October. That ought to be plenty of time. The thing is, all summer long, we don't have an average temperature of 80 degrees with a high of 90 and a low of 70. Some days might be mid 80s, you know, might have a few cold fronts, or lows might dip to, you know, 65 degrees. Well, you know, those days we might only be picking up 14, 15 DD60s. And then we'll have some warmer weather where we can increase it, but still, you see how close we're cutting it on getting this cotton matured out. But anyway, I'm not as uncomfortable with this late replanted cotton as I have been in previous years, just based upon what we saw last year. Last year we had one farm of cotton that we really should have replanted, but we wound up deciding to keep it. It did have a decent enough stand to keep, but it did suffer through a lot of cool, wet conditions last year. And what we found out is that our replanted cotton that was replanted about a week to 10 days after what that was planted, it actually caught up and passed, as far as development, what the original cotton was that we kept, because, you know, that cotton lost a lot of its vigor, a lot of its energy early on in those cool, wet conditions. So while there's some spots out here I could keep if we picked around a little bit more, I have confidence that what we're replanting, because it's coming up in a lot better conditions, not going to have to sit through cool, wet soils, you know, I think that it will probably mature out quicker than any cotton that we would save out here. Now again, all of this is just my best guess based on previous experience. I've got no idea what the weather is going to do this summer. If I knew what the weather is going to be like between now and October, I would know what the exact right thing to do is, but I have absolutely no idea. You know, we're just trying to go off the law of averages right now. This is not a good situation no matter how we cut it, but I think that replanting cotton on this day is the best decision for our farm. Come October, I might be telling you a completely different story though. But hey, if there is one benefit to all of this, this farm that we're starting on replanting was the one that we planted during the solar storm. And, you know, we had all the problems with GPS. I was having to use markers. My row shutoffs wasn't working. at least all that mess that I created planting that day, we're erasing all that. We're starting over from scratch, so this field ought to look a whole lot better the rest of the year. Sometimes you just got to find the bright spot in a situation, no matter how small it might be. But you know, I'm not the only one in this boat. All of West Tennessee looks like absolute crap right now. In fact, a lot of the growing areas in the U.S. look like crap. You know, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, you know, Missouri, a lot of those places have just been hammered by rain after rain after rain. There's some farmers I seen on Facebook that said they haven't been able to plant a seed in a solid month. And then, like I said, right here around West Tennessee, driving around yesterday, there's so many fields that have not been planted yet. You know, at least we got all of our crop planted. Yeah, we're having to replant, but a lot of those farmers, they got a lot of acres that haven't been planted the first time. I'm sure they've got some that need to be replanted too, but you know, the fields that haven't been planted are just a lot of them are an absolute grown-up mess. You know, I saw a lot of fields yesterday just almost solid, you know, 2 to 4 foot tall pigweeds. Going to be really, really hard to kill before planting. You know, we got jungle rice, crabgrass, got just a lot of problem weeds that are covering this field just because, you know, farmers haven't been able to get in and plant. You know, a lot of what has been planted, farmers haven't been able to spray. You know, so you got some grown-up messes in existing crops. You know, we sprayed on days when we really shouldn't have just because stuff had to be sprayed. So overall, we're in a pretty good situation. And then, you know, that's not even talking about the wheat crop. You know, the wheat crop has started maturing out and drying down over the last few weeks, and all of this rain has been absolutely horrible for the wheat crop. You know, mine still looks decent because mine was later planted, a little bit later maturing. It wasn't as thick as the earlier planted stuff because it didn't have enough time to till her out. So all of my wheat is still pretty much standing up straight. In fact, you can see one of my fields right there across the road. You know, it still looks good, but the rain has been really hard on the seed quality. But I've seen a lot of fields here locally that was planted early, and it was nice and thick, looked beautiful all winter, all spring long, and now it just looks like absolute hell. A lot of it's been blown down, tossed around, flat on the ground, got a bunch of weeds coming up through the flattened spots, you know, all that grain, you know, it's been staying down in moisture, just almost solid. Probably going to be a lot of sprouting, probably going to be a lot of farmers have problems selling their wheat this year just because of poor grain quality. And it's just a really tough situation. You know, as much as I hate replanting cotton, you know, we're very fortunate in that, you know, for the most part, you know, ours looks pretty good considering everything it's gone through. But I do believe it's going to be a long, slow, miserable wheat harvest for a lot of folks here in West Tennessee, unfortunately. And there's probably a lot of guys that could have problems actually selling their grain just due to poor quality.
So we have successfully burned down cotton again. Now we're rinsing out. So everything right in here is alive, but everything back over there did not come up. Also, we're getting ready for 2025. We'll see you with our stockpile of poop. You can see we don't have a lot up over here. Really weird that the end rows did not come up, but the middle came up just fine. All of that is all right. The back terrace is not. So we're just kind of picking and choosing where we're gonna replant this cotton, but like, where is it at? It's not here. You can have perfect planting conditions, but 36 hours later it can change everything. So it just goes to show you that you can have perfect planting conditions, and then 24, 36 hours later, Mother Nature makes your plans different. So here we are, 20 some odd days later, and we're having to replant like 210 acres, but just gotta stay on the positive side. Maybe it will be the best cotton we've ever grown. You just never know. But we are getting ready for 2025, stockpiled everywhere around, so that's a plus. He's on a second rinse out, and now we're gonna go back to plant bug spraying. We've got to do this farm and another farm, and then tomorrow we're gonna go on our second round of plant bugs. On the rest of the crop, that actually looks decent, so we'll have to show you what that looks like.
Heck of a sunset this evening. Heck of a sunset this evening. We getting about close to about halfway done. You know, we got started just a little before lunch, and we got somewhere about 100 acres done so far, and we're gonna keep on plucking on at it for a little while longer before we go home and finish her up tomorrow. Heck of a sunset this evening. We getting about close to about halfway done. You know, we got started just a little before lunch, and we got somewhere about 100 acres done so far, and we're gonna keep on plucking on at it for a little while longer before we go home and finish her up tomorrow. All right, we're over here on the Simmons farm, and this is one of the farms we're not going to replant the whole thing. There's certain spots of it we're going to replant the whole thing, but like on this hill right here, it's just kind of scattered, the bare spots, and mainly it's where the water flows down through. So I'm just driving here slowly so I can see the cotton stand, and when I find, you know, a problem area, I'll set the planter down, planting directly onto the rows. This hasn't been burned down. And with RTK, you know, I can do that, and then when we get to a good spot, you know, I'll pick the planter up, drive through it, go on to the next bad spot. This is definitely a lot slower process than just replanting the whole thing, but we're just trying to salvage as much older cotton as we can, because the yield potential is, you know, so much higher on it. I've already got a pretty good idea of the spots that need to be replanted. I've already scouted all this on my motorcycle, ridden over all of it real good, so you know, I've got a pretty good idea. Now, we won't be completely perfect, but the worst spots we ought to be able to drop in and get those worst spots up to a good stand, to where hopefully we don't have anything bare out here. All right, we're getting to a good area, so we're gonna stop, raise the planter, and drive on to the next one. We're going to do that for the whole field here, and then there's another hill across the creek we're going to do the same thing too, but the bottoms, well, 2 out of 3 bottoms we're going to completely replant. The other bottom just needs the end rows replanted on it. All right, we're just about done riding over the Fisher farm and spot planting. Like I said, we had to replant the whole big bottom, a little bottom on the other side of the creek, end rows on that one, and then spot plant the far hill, and then we're just kind of driving around this hill, and the swags where the water runs down through there, kind of dropping in and planting them. But up here on top of the hill, we got a great stand. I just want to show you what the early cotton looks like. There, you can see it right there. I mean, that's a textbook stand. I mean, absolutely fantastic. I think every seed came up. Now, it's because we got a textbook stand, that don't mean the cotton looks good. That's not some very good looking cotton. Ignoring the cotyledons, but looking at the true leaves there, you see kind of how crinkled up they are. You know, this is a 2-leaf cotton, but that those true leaves should be, you know, nice, big, shiny, not crinkled up. What the damage you're seeing right there is thrip damage. And realistically, this cotton should have been sprayed 5 to 7 days ago at least for thrips, but because of the weather, we just couldn't get here and do it. And, you know, this cotton just sat here. You know, it was cooler, cloudy, rain just about every day. You know, the cotton was just sitting here, and those thrips are real, I mean, tiny, tiny insects. You can barely see them with the naked eye that will stick their proboscis into the plant and suck the sap out of the plant. And when cotton is this small and this young, I mean, you know, it's very tender and it's very delicate, and it doesn't take a whole lot to damage it. And in extreme circumstances, I've actually seen thrips kill young cotton. Now, we're not worried about that here, but what it has done is it has really slowed down its growth. If we didn't have to worry about thrips, you know, where we got 2-leaf cotton, you know, we might have 3-leaf cotton, potentially even 4-leaf cotton. Now, Kelly and Andy, you know, they got done spraying burn down in front of me yesterday. This morning, they swapped over spraying for thrips, and they sprayed this farm this morning. And hopefully he'll come back here in a few days, nice sunny weather, thrips are gone. We'll see a big rebound in this cotton. Now, there's not going to be any fixing the crinkled up leaves that's already there, but the very new growth coming from the terminal in there, you know, we should start seeing a lot healthier leaves and hopefully see this cotton pick up the pace on growing and everything. Now, this cotton right here was planted, I think it was planted May 10th. Today it's May 30th, so this cotton is 20 days old. However, a lot of that time was spent just sitting here, taking a little bit longer than normal to emerge due to rain, cool, cloudy conditions. And then once it did come up, didn't have a lot of really good growing days. So this seed that I'm planting now, even though it's almost 3 weeks behind in planting date, once it actually starts coming up and growing, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe it's only about maybe 10, 11 days behind this other cotton and actually developing and maturing. And if, like what we saw last year, comes true, you know, this early planting cotton that we're keeping used up a lot of its energy, a lot of its vigor, just trying to survive all that cool, wet weather. And it just didn't have a whole lot of energy just to get up and start growing. Whereas my replanted cotton didn't have to suffer through all those conditions. And, you know, it came up blowing and going, and it actually caught up and passed in development and maturity the cotton that I kept last year. So there's a chance same thing might happen this year. We just don't know, but we're definitely going to study this all year long. You know, we've got some pretty good test plots here, you know, where I dropped down and replanted, and then right next to it didn't replant. So all this summer I'll be able to show you the difference in maturity step by step, and we'll see if the replanted cotton, you know, how much difference in maturity there is, you know, when it's actually time to harvest it. All right, just kind of give you an idea of the spot planting that we're doing. You know, here's one of the fields that we spot planted, and I was probably a little aggressive in spot planting. We probably could have kept some of it, but when you're trying to watch 12 rows wide at 4.5, 5 miles an hour, I tend to err on the side of caution. And a lot of that, you know, there might only been 2 or 3 bad rows out of the 12, but, you know, all we do is plant 12 rows. Now, this hill over here where I'm at, it was definitely a lot better. You know, we got a line of silt basins that run down through there and then down through there. You see we did a little spot planting there, plus a lot of the end rows. Big bottom, definitely need to be replanted. Little bottom need to be replanted, and then the basically the end rows on this bottom over here. So anyway, we planted 42.3 acres out of a 62-acre farm. So we got about 20 acres worth of early cotton left on this farm. We'll be able to see how it does compared to the replanted come fall. Well guys, that does it. We just got done in the nick of time, about to get dark. Wound up replanting some more up here on Windy City than what I planned. Got to look at the end rows and few of the wetter spots, and they just wasn't acceptable, and we liked to not had enough seed. If I didn't have a couple extra bags of a test plot seed there in the planter left over from regular planting, we'd had to go to the store and get some more seed. Looks like that Kelly and Andy just got done spraying. They headed in too. But overall, between the Fisher Farm and up here Windy City, I probably wound up replanting about 10 more acres than what I was originally planned on. And if it hadn't been dark, if I had a little bit more seed, probably would have liked done a little bit more up here, but it's just going to be what it's going to be. Now the key thing is getting this cotton up the second time. Hopefully it comes up before we get any rain, although we're predicted to get some rain this weekend. I don't know how much, but because that seed's already rotted once, the pathogen that causes the seed to rot, it is definitely prolific in the soil. I'm replanting on the same rows I was, so there's definitely a higher pathogen load, so it's not going to take as bad of conditions as we had the first time in order to keep this replant from coming up. So we can stand to miss the rain, that's for sure. I don't want to say I want it to stop raining, because once it stops raining, it might not start back up. But if I can get about 4 to 5 days without a rain, I'll be tickled on this cotton crop. So anyway, we're gonna head on in. I was wanting to give y'all an actual crop tour video of the corn and soybeans too, but wheat cutting is literally right around the corner. I mean, heck, we could probably start tomorrow if we had everything ready to go and rain wasn't predicted to come in. Anyway, I'll try to get you some clips sometime, show you what the corn and beans look like. I'm pretty dang happy with it. Soybeans look pretty good. I mean, they always look ugly this time of year when they're just starting to get going and everything. They always look ugly. We got the stand there. We got them planted early enough, and then the corn crop's gotten a taste of that nitrogen. It started to take off. It looks pretty dang good. Pretty happy with it. So anyway, folks, not sure what the next video is going to be. I have a feeling it's probably going to be a video from the combine though. So anyway, appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you on the next one.